The other day, I was getting tired of reading my own subtitles. But I also hate my voice. I'm not shy. I just have a nasal voice, so it doesn't sound good. Let's use AI and see what will happen. I'm 140% a guy, but let's use Horn for this demo. I'm using the creator subscription. It's $22 USD. I don't know the exact policy about using Arknights' voice to PVC the voice, as I don't own it in any ways. I suggest just sticking to the instant cloning. To be honest, I feel like the $5 one might work since I don't post that often. Nor do I comment that much. Oh, right. When ElevenLabs came out, it was free to instant clone any voice. Now it's behind a $1 paywall. You can see I got a bunch of random cloned voices here, mostly Horn. Let's work with Horn first. You can see Horn Test 3 here is generated from a MP3 called Horn 2, 3.8 MB big. It's all of Horn's English lines compiled together. Horn Test 2 is the same Horn 2 MP3 file. Horn Test 1 is also the same Horn 2 MP3 file. I also saved them in Wave and we'll test that too. I generated 6 clips all saying, "Let's test with You Want to Topple Me?" By what? Test 1, 2, and 3 are all the same source clip, but they were generated into 3 separate voices. Test 1.1 and 1.2 are the same as Test 1, just generated 2 more times for comparison. WAV is the same clip, but split into 5 files and uploaded. I also added 2 more versions. Topple Battle is using all 4 battle lines, and Topple Topple simply uses Horn's signature line. I'll shut up and you can listen. You can even just look at the difference in pattern in the sound waves. Last one is the original. Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? You want to topple me? By what? Conclusion is, with the same source file, you'll never get 2 of the same or similar clip. It's arguable that some are really bad and some other ones are pretty good. This voice is called Horn I Like, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect. I just happen to like this one more than the other in the few attempts I made. It's expected with AI. And if you want a certain tone, you'll need to use a source with the same tone. However, we don't have enough source materials, so it sounds worse. And I'm not certain if the AI can pick up when and where it needs to the stronger tone or higher pitch. Oh right, I use default settings. Stability at 50% and clarity similarity at 75%. This probably caused the difference variation between generations. In my testing, 50% stability is pretty good. You can shift it to find the perfect spot, but it's not worth it. And the extreme ends sound awful. 75% clarity similarity is fine as well. I went to 100% and it sounds fine too, but you don't want 0%. And it's probably fine because these clips are very clear. And that clip was recorded yesterday. And as you can see, there's 2 new sections. Style Exaggeration and Speaker Boost. Let's just test it now. And that clip was recorded yesterday. And as you can see, there's 2 new sections. Style Exaggeration and Speaker Boost. Let's just test it now. Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? Let's test with You Want to Topple Me? By what? With the short clips, I can tell that higher exaggeration is less stable, and it's not always recommended. But with the full sentence, I do like the 100% more and don't see any huge instability. I feel like there's more horn with the higher percent, but the 80% one was really bad. I also realized that the higher instability result in the AI speaking slower and possibly dragged out. All or most of the other clips are pre-recorded using default settings, so it's probably 0% exaggeration. Also, you will get different results depending of the number of exclamation marks you use. You want to topple me? By what? 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 I broke the AI with the last bit. This part of the script had to be redone because ElevenLabs just released Multilingual V2. I wrote the original script and recorded the clips using V1. There's no British for horn or Scottish for bagpipe, but there is Italian for Vigil and Chinese for Hoshiguma that were part of my original script.
Let's start with Vigil first. His source file is also a compilation of all of his in-game lines. This is Multilingual V1. This hunt has dragged on for too long. And this is Multilingual V2. This hunt has dragged on for too long. You heard that? My original script went on and on about how awful ElevenLabs is because Vigil's Italian accent was gone. Literally gone and became a standard English or American voice. But you heard that ending. Let's go again. This hunt has dragged on for too long. And what purpose do you think your sacrifice will serve? This hunt has dragged on for too long. And what purpose do you think your sacrifice will serve? Yep, it's AI. The second time Vigil said that line, the tone, accent kind of faded a bit. I'm still very happy that V2 actually has Italian accent. A little. Out of all the male English voices, Vigil and Malinar are my favorite. Yes, I like the accents. I might just use Vigil to commentate my videos in the future. I am probably lying. I like horn too much. Or I'll just use whoever is in the video as the main voice like my Chubai pulse. I actually think the style exaggeration is fine at 100% with these voices. Probably because they have accents and exaggerating them seems fine.
Last but not least, let's use Hoshiguma's Cantonese regional voice. You'll see why in an upcoming video. Kof himiko kof kafka kof. Last but not least, let's use Hoshiguma's Cantonese regional voice. You'll see why in an upcoming video. Kof himeko kof kafka kof. First one was from V1. Second one was from V2. I actually forgot to change the language settings to V2 and had to generate that line 7 times with V1 before I got something I was happy with. I generated with V2 3 times, and they were all decent. It's really a nice improvement. Just a quick insert. The longer your text is, the less stable your clip will be. So it's better to write short sentences, or just 1-2 sentences than paragraphs.
All right. I actually dreaded to do Hoshiguma. I'm sure you can already hear what's wrong. If you use a different language as your source clip, depending on the language or dialect, they might be speaking quite fast or crisp on each syllable. So when you end up with English, you get this. I haven't tried V2 as of this recording yet, so it'll be new to me too. To combat this problem, I went through all of Hoshi's voice clips and tried only selecting the ones where Shixin Peng was speaking slower. It didn't do much. I'm no audio engineer or even a hobbyist. But I do know, you can stretch out an audio, and if you stretch it out too much, it'll sound awful. This clip was generated using Hoshiguma's clips at 90% speed. And that's basically the limit of how slow I can make it. It's better, but not that good. Here's a few clips from the original.
喺我面前傷害我嘅同伴，係我最無法容忍嘅事。
我講嘢冷冰冰咁。話晒做緊嘢啊嘛，其實休息嗰陣，我唔會咁正經㗎。
波爺，將你父親喺打造你嗰陣所帶嘅怒火，一次過噴發晒出嚟啦！
Though, ElevenLabs was able to capture Shixin Peng's tone and pitch and all that stuff more or less. Her voice doesn't have any thick or super distinguishable accents. But there's nothing to copy. The AI voice is just choppy and fast due to the fast nature Cantonese or Shixin Peng speaks, I think. Everything before this word was in my original clip and my honest thought. However, I am regenerating this clip to add a few words because future me just tried V2 and it's horrendous. Let me reiterate that Shixin Peng has no Chinese or Cantonese accent in her lines. She simply sounds like a normal American speaking Chinese without any accent. Let me pull up Lin. She's a great example.
Bolo Yao, fresh out of the oven. Want one?
It literally just sounds like bo lo yao or bo lo yao. And you can see that Horn did a pretty decent job. I mean, you need to learn how to say it with a different pitch and tone and when to go up and down. But accent-wise, it sounds like English. More or less.
刚出炉的菠萝油，你也想吃吗？
刚出炉的菠萝油，你也想吃吗? First one was Hoshiguma, at normal speed with Chinese text as the input. It basically says the same thing as Lin's line. Pineapple bun, fresh out of the oven, want one? The second one is Horn's voice, but also Chinese text. First one sounds like a Chinese voice. But because Shixin Peng spoke in Cantonese, ElevenLabs basically slapped on a Mandarin accent on top and fused it together. Second one sounds like a British woman speaking Chinese. It's another fusion. I tested it. The actual text are Gang Chu Lu de Bo Luo Yo. 你也想吃吗? Bo lo yao, fresh out of the oven, want one. Bo lo yao doesn't sound correct. You'll need to use bo lo yao or bao lo yao, and it'll sound closer to the Cantonese.
And this is what you get if you use a Hoshiguma's voice on normal speed as your source material to generate something in English. It uses a bare-bone skeletal structure of Shixin Peng's voice and forced a very stereotypical Mandarin accent on top. At least, it's not a super fast speed anymore, just pretty fast. You can't get around it for some reason. If you listen to the Chinese pineapple bun line again, it's not fast for Shixin Peng or Horn. Anyways, this voice is not a clone of Shixin Peng's voice. V1 was better. 刚出炉的菠萝油，你也想吃吗?
Let's do one last test. This is Lin by Artemis Snow. I love her. She has an awesome voice. If you listen to her Bolor Yao or Borlor Yao or Bolo Yao line, you'll see that her Cantonese and English voice sounds very similar. Not much of an accent, if any. So, Bolo Yao, fresh out of the oven. Want one?
Let's do a few last tests with the new update that ruined my original script twice. And this is what you get if you use a Hoshiguma's voice on normal speed as your source material to generate something in English. I feel like yesterday's had a thicker accent than this one. Let's move it to 100%. This felt even faster. Right, I cannot type LOL. Anyways, testing is done. I stand by what I said earlier. They just slapped on a Chinese accent because the source was from a Chinese clip. It doesn't even differentiate between the different dialects, Mandarin or Cantonese. Alright, with all the testing done, what can we conclude? Pros. It's actually not that bad. As long as you're not trying to add emotions or ups and downs in your script, the AI clone can give you pretty decent reading voice clips with some exaggerations. Cons. It's also stated in the Pros Plus. I feel like they cut corners with the multilingual part. For starters, Chinese grouped Mandarin and Cantonese together as one, and from that, we can see if I use a Chinese source clip that doesn't have a strong accent. ElevenLabs will slap on a stereotypical accent on top of it to make it more Chinese.
I don't know Italian, so I can't say if that's the case for Vigil. And Vigil's original voice clips had a distinguishable Italian accent. The same can be said for horn as well. So it's hard to say whether the accent is from the source, or a slapped-on stereotypical accent. Or it could be both, a fusion. I don't know what ElevenLabs did here. They introduced 2 new features within a few days, and it's great. But it's not really addressing some of the main issues like speeding up or slowing down the speed, or able to control more emotions or something.
I know that a few Arknights or ex-Arknights content creators use this. Dreamy uses her Meteor voice. If you pay attention, you'll hear that Meteor is speaking a bit too fast. With Dreamy's last video being 7 days ago of this editing, I wonder if she would fix or alter her AI clone. There's another creator that uses the AI cloning for memes and skits. You can definitely hear that they didn't put that much effort in fine-tuning. Like when I was using V1, I had to generate multiple times to get a clip I'm satisfied with. V2 is better, that I agree.
Last is cost. I wasted like 25k characters between the last 3 days in this video, and Chubai's pulls. It's fun, but at $22 USD per month, I won't have much characters left if I make long videos like this, or try to perfect anything.
It's a very fun tool though, thanks for watching. All credits to Hypergriff, Anna Burnett, Salvatore Scarpa, Shixin Peng, Artemis Snow, Allegra Clark, and Jennifer Losi.